What's up, everyone? Welcome to another episode of the Revelers Rule podcast, here celebrating life lively and loudly. And here today with me is my good friend, Miguel Rodriguez of the Bakersfield Gentlemen. Only one half of the Bakersfield Gentlemen this time around. We're missing Frankie, and we are missing Frankie. I haven't seen him in a good minute, so I hope he's doing good, not working too hard. So he got called into work today, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Yeah, I gotta backtrack right there. I don't know if I'm missing him, but I understand the idea behind it. But he did get called into work. We had it all set up too. We're like, okay, we got things we have to do today, and it was the perfect time. We did 1 o'clock. Like, okay, that's excellent. It fits right into the schedule. There's no issues. I get a call this morning after I get off work. Oh, I need to go to work now. No, this is what happens when your employer doesn't like you as much as my employer likes me. They would never do this to me, okay? So he needs to step up the game.
That's why I'm glad that I don't work a job that is like an on-call type of job. I don't think I could deal with, especially with the nature of my schedule every day. It wouldn't work. It would fuck my universe up something fierce. And it's challenging enough to find a balance, especially when you got a family and stuff like that, wife and kids. You got to make sure everything works. You know, speaking of which, like I'm like, the wedge of time that was worked out fine for this to happen, I have to make sure that in about an hour and 20 minutes I can get out the door to go pick up kids. So that shows you what my life is like. But I know it's like it's different for everybody, but everybody's got something they got to do, somewhere they got to be, and cramming this shit into a nice little box is tough. So I appreciate you being here, man. Yeah, I appreciate you being here, man. We finally got to do this. It's been a good minute since you and I have done anything like this. I think the last time we did anything like this was when I announced my rebrand, and I was on your guys' show.
Oh, so, man, I think that was
that, which was about almost.
Stop that. We got to get closer.
No, we live in California, so we're in the same time zone, so that's not a problem. And you just happen to live about 4 or 5 hours north of me, and because you're in Bakersfield, I'm here in Corona, which is like wedged right in between LA and San Diego, more or less. So it's it's so strange to me because I can't get together with people that I live near. That's the sad part. Everybody's so damn busy getting together with people even close to where you live. It's like pulling teeth, man. So this kind of stuff, I understand why it's complicated, but we've been keeping in touch via text and all that kind of stuff, making sure we're, staying up to speed. And you guys have been fantastic, supporting me and sponsoring me with your wonderful cigars, which I'm smoking one of them right now. I'm smoking the Trust the Process, and I am indeed trusting the process, as weird as it gets sometimes, because I feel like, I'm sure you understand sitting there wondering, like, why the fuck is this happening? What is going on right now? I am trying to do a million things, and it's just like, yeah. That
on
damn
the daily, I ask myself that question.
No, man, it is with this especially, like, because you guys, how long have you guys been doing the Bakersfield Gentlemen? Like, what, 5-6 years now?
No, this is going to be 9 this year.
Wow.
So 10 years is next year. Yeah, I was hoping it was going to be 2025, and I looked at the schedule. Like, no, it wasn't, because 2016 is when we met Trina and we really got into cigars, and that was again, it was all kind of serendipitous. It wasn't supposed to be such a focus, but cigar people are incredible. Cigars are wonderful. And I'm very happy to be doing this kind of stuff. So I don't think we're stopping anytime soon. But
same kind of thing. Yeah, same kind of thing with me. Like, obviously, and everybody knows that, like, I started off with, Tim, Cigar Show Tim Long. And, that's how we met you guys, him and I doing it together. We were at Fuente Fever 2019. That seems like a lifetime ago, doesn't it? Escondido, back when Angela was still here in Southern California. For those of you not in the know, Angela Yu is like one of the big boss ladies in the cigar world. I'm not even joking when I say that. That woman is a powerhouse, savvy business person. She started up Lord Puffer in Escondido. I don't know how many years ago, but then she moved to sunny Florida to be closer to the Fuente family, and she started Grand Cathedral, which is literally an old church building that she essentially gutted and turned into this luxurious cigar lounge, which that's bucket list for me to go visit one of these days. So, but yeah, I think it was Fuente Fever #2 or something like that. I think she only did a couple of them. And
unfortunately, the COVID was like a year after that one, I think.
Just barely.
So it was just, oof, yeah.
Yeah. So we went 2019, and that's when finally met you and your brother, and we got to hang out, and it's been pretty cool ever since, man. Keeping in touch, supporting each other, and all that kind of stuff. And even with the distance and everything, it's been nice. It's been really good, and I appreciate how much you guys have been supporting me. It's meant a lot.
Yeah, no, we appreciate you, brother. It's been a good ride. Glad to see you. Even if it's over the internet, I'm glad to see you. Appreciate the text, making sure I'm still alive from time to time.
Yeah, sometimes I wonder, man, because you're just like, you'll go quiet after a bit. I message Frankie every now and then, and it's usually just pretty simple, one word responses. Cool. Yeah. Awesome. I'm good. Things like that, which I'm good with, because, any communication is better than no communication. But yeah, you've been, as I often say, busier than a one-legged man in an ass-kicking contest, haven't you?
I've been doing that very much, and that ass-kicking contest is kind of kicking my ass most days, but I'm still glad to be in it.
Well, you and Frankie encountered like a massive clusterfuck not that long ago, because you guys were making a big you're making a big leap. Initially, you were going to be moving to Texas and starting some work over there. And just for whatever reason, call it fate, circumstance, or whatever, you guys got shafted in the weirdest way.
It was not expected. I thought if things were going to go wrong, I was sure of it. But how they went wrong was definitely not in my plans. They tell you, expect for the worst. I didn't know New Mexico was the worst option. I did not realize that. I will say that till the day I die. I hate New Mexico. If there's anyone from New Mexico listening right now, get out. I don't know why you still live there.
I actually have a friend who lives there, but to be fair, she's actually, I've interviewed her on the channel before. I would love to have her on this podcast one of these days, even if it's virtual. But she got an amazing opportunity to work at a university, and she does all of their, like PR marketing stuff. I mean, she had her own company for a number of years where she was doing like marketing for a lot of different people, especially in like the convention circuit.
Very nice.
Comic-Con type stuff. Martha Staub, I want to shout her out because she's awesome, and she works her ass off. But yeah, I mean, that's a legit reason to go there. And I believe her mom lives there too. So, that that's a legit reason. Two very legit reasons to move to New Mexico. So, but yeah, if there's nothing else, then yeah, get out.
Yeah, no, it is number 50 out of all the states, in my opinion. Unfortunately for them, if Mexico wanted it back, they could just have it. No, I have a very big grudge against New Mexico after all that happened in that state. But I will say this: wonderful peppers. They have delicious peppers. Then they celebrate. It's on the license plates everywhere. So.
Oh yeah, no, I've seen it. I've seen it. So I understand that completely. But no, this is a funny. But what was the town that you guys got stuck in? You were stuck there for like 5 days, weren't you?
Stuck there for almost 2 weeks in Santa Rosa, New Mexico.
Oh, wow.
A town of I want to say it was less than 2,000 people, because the sign was like, it said 3,000. And the guy that I met, one of the locals, really nice guy, but he's like, yeah, we're down to like probably less than 1,500. It's just one of those towns along Route 66 that, it's no longer viable. And that sucks because it is a beautiful place. They had some cool tourist stuff. There was a classic car museum. There was the Blue Hole, which is just a giant water hole that they practice scuba diving in. So,
so it was Radiator. It was Radiator Springs, pretty much.
That's exactly the feel. I was literally by myself on their main street with all the lights still on to downtown, like five businesses. Nothing was open on Mondays or Tuesdays anyways, because there wasn't enough people to support it.
Oh my gosh.
And I wanted to go to the movies, and I saw that they had oh God, what was it? The Wild Robot, that kid movie, and the new Beetlejuice at the time. Like, wow. Okay, I'll go watch that. Jenna Ortega's awesome, fine. But I didn't realize that no, they have one screen, and they played that movie. I was waiting for you to say it's only one screen. So I watched the Wild Robot with like two other people in the classic though. Beautiful movie.
That's either like the beginning of like a really inspirational small town movie or the start of a horror movie.
Oh no, like, it was definitely oh gosh, what is it? Twilight Zone episode where the guy is like lost and he can't find anybody. He's trying to call and like nobody will help him. It was that kind of feeling. In a nice way.
Wow. Wow. My dad has a story like that one time. He was my dad's in insurance and he's been doing insurance for over 40 years. And he told me this one story about how he was in this one small town. I can't remember if it was in Colorado or Utah, but it was this little like podunk town. And it was one of those towns where polygamy is definitely still going on. And you got all these women dressed alike, you know, all these women married to one guy. And like, I can't remember if he said he was like actually was meeting someone there, or he was passing through, but he said there was a vibe that he was getting that made him feel like they weren't going to let him leave. So it was like, it's probably some little FLDS town or something like that. And, you know, which makes me think of Brandon Ovison now, Brandon Ovison and Kendrick. Just like that's the kind of shit that's part of the, you know, history of what they got away from. So it's just kind of, I can't get away from talking about cults apparently.
I don't think the great people of Apostate Cigars have multiple wives, though. I'm just going to put that out.
No, I'm not saying sure. That's in the history of what they got away from. I made sure to clarify that so that way.
Thank God. Okay. But as soon as you said polygamy, I was like, wait, that's probably Utah, or it might just be New Mexico again, because they're full of polygamists over there too. I had no idea.
Oh yeah, in all of the states where, like, you know, either, you know, some of the more remote parts of Utah, Colorado, New Mexico, just because there's a lot of places like that in those states. Yeah, that's where the polygamists tend to hole up, because it's just like the funny thing is that, you know, if you've ever watched a show like Sister Wives or anything like that, like they're only legally married to one person. They're only legally married to one person, but they do the thing where like there's actual additional marriages through the church, and that's, you know, the only authority they need in terms of like marriages and shit. And it's just weird, man. But yeah, no, my dad said he was getting creeped the hell out because he'd never really seen it up close and never seen it in person. And it's just like, you read about it, it's part of history, and just seeing it, he said it weirded him the hell out, and he wanted to get out of there as quickly as possible.
I don't blame him. I got two things for you on this then. First, I want to ask you a question, and then there's a story that kind of ties in. When you see those sister wife shows, or you hear about a guy like, oh yes, I've got multiple wives or a big family, as a married man, does that not just sound stressful to you to have multiple wives? Like, I feel like one and done is plenty.
No, just I can't, other than some kind of weird ass flex, like, or obviously for them religious reasons, I can't imagine why any man would want to be married to more than one woman, or if any woman be married to more than one man for that matter, because it's hard enough maintaining one relationship as it is sometimes. So yeah, no, to answer your question, one and done, that's good.
I like it. I'd actually feel worse, I think, for a woman married to multiple men, because they don't admit it as much as I think women, like, oh, because talk about their feelings and what. No, men are complainers. We like to complain a lot, and I would all the time. that's like half my day, and I feel like I gotta stop.
I have to.
Oh,
I try to turn it into something funny, so it doesn't sound like I'm just complaining. Like I talk about my kids and how they drive me insane, but I always tell it in a funny story, so it's not like I'm just moaning and groaning about being a dad. I love being a dad, but that being
yeah.
said, sometimes I want to run from my house, fucking screaming. It's not unusual. Every parent will tell you the same thing, and if they tell you that's not the case, they're lying. They are lying to you. But anyways, you
Um,
said you had a story.
oh yes. Okay. So for the that feeling of meeting these traditional non-traditionalists in the wilds,
Right.
there is actually the largest Jehovah's Witness meeting in Bakersfield once a year.
Oh
So a
wow.
lot of them will get together, and they're really nice people. They just live a little differently than the rest of us. It's nothing.
Mm,
It's nothing as quite as high as polygamy, but it's not as normal as sneakers and jeans, because everyone's in the little
right.
house on the prairie dresses everywhere they go. And I was downtown, and they were just shopping, doing their thing with all the little local shops, and every
Yeah.
single one of them had two people in the street doing this to help them back up as they were trying to get out of their parking spot. So every couple of seconds, I would see two girls in little house on the prairie dresses run into the street, kind of look around, and then help them back up. And I was just fascinated, like, what? I didn't, because I had no idea what was going on. I had
Yeah,
no
that does.
idea that this was even a meeting.
Do they not have rear view mirrors? That's what I want to know.
Modern
And
cars,
nowadays,
totally.
every day's have backup cameras.
You got the cameras, you got the sensors. No, they do not take chances, which I guess is a good thing. And they were all very friendly, very smiley. A lot of very pretty girls smiling at you, and you think, "Oh, this is a nice town." No, stay
That's
away.
how they
They
get
will.
you.
They're looking to convert, so just be careful.
That's
Be careful, dude.
um, my last guest, Michelle Dowd. She was on Joe Rogan, and Joe Rogan told a story to her about how like there was this really pretty Puerto Rican girl that was like wanting to get him to go to like parties and get-togethers and stuff like that. And first he's like, this is awesome. I'm gonna get in with this gorgeous Puerto Rican girl. And then they're like, he's telling a story about how like I think it was not then President Trump. He was just Donald Trump. And apparently he was on a plane and they flew into an airport without the landing gear because the landing gear malfunctioned or something. He says, but they slid into a field and they're all right. And I guess the girl's like, and her and her friends were like, "Oh, praise God, praise the Lord." And he's like, "What?" Like he never heard those words come out of her mouth. And then it clicked that she was trying to get him to go to all these gatherings and get-togethers to get him into her church and stuff like that. And it was all a tactic. It's a tactic. And then I actually had two of them show up at my house today. They knocked on my door and I did not answer. I never answered. And that's the beautiful thing about having a ring camera. Having a ring camera. What, you think I
Sir.
should have?
Yeah, it's hours of entertainment if you play it right. If you have
I
the
was
time.
not. I had the time. I did not have the patience or the will.
There are some moments where it's like, I would like to talk to you guys about L. Ron Hubbard. Like why are we limiting to one cult here? I mean, religion. Excuse me.
No,
No.
anyone I've ever known that has been in the Jehovah's Witnesses, part of the Watchtower Society, they will tell you it functions and operates just like a cult, and it's one of the many active. I guess there's like 10,000 active cults in the country today, and there's a directory. There's an actual directory. But yeah, kind of like touching back on obviously this shit being scary and horror movies. You are now, is it a horror movie that you're going to be directing in Vegas in June? Is that what's
Yes.
going on?
Yes,
Awesome.
it is
Can you
called
give
Living
any
Death.
kind of detail? Living Death?
Living Death, yes. I can't go too much into the script just yet, but think of your classic 80s horror style. The executive producer, Philip Cable, is a great buddy, and he will be spearheading most of it. I'm co-directing with him, but due to health reasons, he needs somebody who can be more hands-on for him. and
Gotcha.
I want to help this guy out whenever and however I can. He's been a mentor for me for the film industry for basically since I started. Super great guy. He's been working with sci-fi and horror actors and other filmmakers basically since he started as well. He wrote a book on how to make a film for $2,000. It's a really fun book. It's just
Nice.
a really good guy.
No, it sounds like it. Now, how long have you been like working in like film, like making films, being part of film productions and stuff like that?
On and off since I was 20, so it's been 12 years.
Okay.
Like it's honestly it's probably closer to like 7 years out of that because there's been breaks in between where we couldn't film. I had to do other things, you know, life got in the way. But
Right.
since about 20, I went to started classes over at Los Angeles Film and Recording Arts. Had to come back to Bakersfield because some family issues. My dad got sick at the time, and
Oh,
I decided I'm just gonna keep filming things, and that's kind of why we did the show. That's why we did all the live shows before COVID.
right.
There's a bunch of shorts we've done out there. The two movies that were feature films that we filmed didn't get finished because indie filmmaking is such a pain, but they
Well,
will
yeah,
be done
because
sooner or later.
you don't have a major studio financing your everything. You have to come up with, the resources on your own, whether it's through a backer or somebody who's investing in your film, or you just raise the money yourself. I mean, that's just the plight of an indie filmmaker, but I still find it so fascinating and exciting. It's one of those things, and I know you and I have discussed it periodically and whatnot. Like, I definitely need to break into that just for the fun of it, because I'm not at this point in my life at almost 41 years old. I know I'm probably not going to be, getting to the point where I'm winning an Academy Award. And to be perfectly honest, I could give a shit about that. But just being a part of an actual film, being in a movie, even if it's one of those just small budget things that ends up like on Tubi at the end of the day, that's still pretty cool. I actually have, a guy I knew a long time ago, and we're kind of just connected through social media right now. I don't know if you're familiar with a guy by the name of Pat Kuznati.
Oh yeah,
You know
that
Pat?
name sounds
Or
very
no,
familiar.
you
Yeah,
know of him? He's a
yeah, I know of
a
him.
small Asian guy, short little Asian guy with a buzz cut. Really funny, really talented filmmaker. I mean, he's gotten in with the likes of Felissa Rose, Kane Hodder. He's gotten to connect with and work with some pretty big personalities, at least in the horror sphere. And he's made a bunch of like smaller films. Some of them have gotten onto fairly large streaming platforms and stuff like that. But the guy's a prolific filmmaker, and he's constantly working. He's directed a couple of films, produced a number of them, and yeah, he's been doing that for years. And he actually has, I kid you not, probably one of the largest DVD collections I've ever seen anybody ever own. And he has such a large collection, he made it onto like a documentary about people who collect movies.
Oh hell
And
yeah!
yeah, so he's just got like, it's so funny because I got all these DVDs and stuff like boxed up because we have a Blu-ray player that we never use. And to be quite frank, it's like probably about 10 years old. And we never use it. I don't know why it's still in our entertainment center, but it is. And but yeah, now at this point it's all streaming. We don't buy anything anymore because if we can have it on streaming, we just I'm lazy like that. And money, you have to spend money.
It's true. I mean, I love to collect. Indie horror is one of those things where it's always going to need a physical medium because you go to the
Yeah.
conventions, you buy the DVD, or sometimes even VHS. Still, they'll make them. You get them to sign it. It's a wonderful feeling.
I
But
think it's kind of like artists who still have their stuff recorded on vinyl. That's kind of what it
I
is for
love
us
it
now.
though. I love
Yeah,
it.
it's great.
Oh yeah, it's just that experience of actually holding something in your hand because once you
Hmm.
film it and you like upload it to whatever, it's just there and there's no real moment of like catharsis like, oh, this is everything came together, like unless you get
Yeah.
a release, unless you actually like have a watch party with your friends on for your Netflix release, which I'm sure people do.
Yeah.
I mean, that's gotta
Oh
be
yeah.
fun. But
I
you would
know it
love to
happens.
be able to, I want to hand you something, I want to hand you the disc or the film, whatever it might be.
Yeah. Let's talk about like bad horror movies, because there are some like, I mean, from any decade, any period in time, it's just like there are some that they're like a train wreck. You cannot help but watch. And I think probably my top bad horror movie that I watched it a bunch when I was a kid was Troll 2.
Oh, love Troll 2.
Oh, Troll 2 is so bad, but it's so fun to watch. There are times though when I watch it, I'm just like, oh God, this is painful, but I can't look away. I can't look away. The acting is so bad, the script is absolute shit, and the plot itself is just dumb. Like vegetarian trolls who they turn humans into their food, they by feeding them some weird ass concoction that turns them into this slimy, oozy plant matter that they apparently just get a hard on for. And it was one of those things. I remember when I watched it for the first time as a kid, I'm like, this is weird. I don't know what's happening right now. And I guess like, have you seen the documentary that movie pumped out called Best Worst Movie?
No. Wow, I need to watch this.
Well, it's actually on Tubi, if I'm not mistaken. It is a documentary that was made by the lead child actor of that movie. And he what did he do? Yeah, he actually got in touch with the guy who played his dad. The guy who played his dad does all these conventions and stuff for like these really low budget, cheesy, terrible horror movies. And the documentary just kind of covers his, you know, trips going to these conventions, and people like love the movie so much. Like they show up in droves for these conventions, and the fact that he was going to be there and the lead actor was going to be there, like they were just foaming at the mouth. And it was just like, it was really fun to watch, because it was just like, wow, it's amazing how devoted certain people are to these crap movies that become cult classics. And it was just brilliant. It was so much fun to watch. You definitely need to watch it. It's called Best Worst Movie. And they even interviewed the director, who was this Italian director who like spoke next to no English when he made the movie and couldn't give direction to save his life because nobody understood what he was saying, and they didn't have a translator.
I did not know that part. Oh no.
Yeah, no, that probably explains a lot though, doesn't it?
I mean, don't we all speak the international art? You know, that's you don't need words. You just kind of point, and he's Italian, so there's plenty of hand gestures he could have used.
I think it was mostly
I feel like that's an excuse. Yeah, and it's him just like, why is this so bad? Why are we doing such a horrible show? Yeah. Maron. Oh god. So bad.
Maron. Yeah, no, but no, it was just it was a disaster to begin with, and but it got made, and it got like this crazy amount. I remember being a kid, and it was on like HBO or Showtime. It was constantly syndicated over and over and over again. And I was just like, they would play it probably. They never played it like during the prime time, I can tell you that much. But they would be like on during the day when like they're rerunning all these different movies. You know, the movies that nobody's watching during the day unless you're like stuck at home doing nothing. And as a kid during the summertime, I wasn't doing anything, and we had cable, so I would watch it, and I was just like, this is weird, okay, but I'll watch it.
Yeah, it's when you're sick and you're having a fever dream, but the movie is even weirder than the fever dream.
Right.
But I will say this: I 100% respect like Troll 2, and what else would be another one in that category? Even The Room or Birdemic, more than I will ever respect the Sharknado movies. I've said this a million times.
I haven't seen any of the Sharknado movies, and I'm probably not missing much. I will say though, I respect the fact that they keep making them, just because there has to be some kind of like excitement or demand for sequels. I mean, there just is in general, even movies that should not get sequels.
But see, they made them to be bad on purpose. Like they had all that resources, and they wanted to be bad. And that makes me so upset, because other people are trying their best to be good, and it just kind of falls into, okay, this is so bad it's good. You know, it's an ugly dog that's so ugly it's cute. but they wanted to create that, so they're so fake. And you have Mark Cuban and all these other stars and whatnot, and it's so infuriating that they had all the backing of Hollywood if they really wanted to do something, and they decided, no, we're just going to be funny about it. No, make a movie. Like, there are so many ridiculous sci-fi movies I love. Like, what was Patton Oswalt's joke about Mansquito? And there's the Sharktopus and all of these other ridiculous.
What about the Velocipaster?
Love Velocipaster. I love that. Isn't there two of them?
There might be. I actually haven't seen the first one because I think the movie trailer covered the entire movie in like 2 minutes.
Yeah, you're not wrong.
And just like for those who are not in the know, okay, and it's gonna be hard to explain this just because it's so terrible, but it's so funny. It's about this like priest or pastor, if you will, who gets sent to this like jungle country or something like that, like, you know, to do, you know, the good work and all that. And he ends up somehow contracting this disease, or gets bitten by, does he get bitten by a velociraptor? Because I mean, obviously they're
remember. it's like a radioactive oh god, it's so
it's some weird, like, imagine Wolfman, except this guy gets somehow infected or bitten by a reptilian creature, and he will randomly, I think it's like if he gets angry or upset, you know, almost like the Hulk, except not cool at all, he turns into an actual velociraptor. And he, like, I guess the whole premise is like he uses this new ability to kill the evil, the wicked, and the unrighteous. So it's just like, and the trailer itself is a gag, because the guy who's narrating it, first of all, he sounds bored and like he didn't want to be there, and they were paying him the minimum rate. And he's just like, the Velocip. It sounds like he was like from like Brooklyn or New Jersey. He's like, the Velocipasta. And then different little narrations in between, and then just interjecting every now and then with the title, the Velocipasta. I'm like, holy shit. They didn't give a fuck, did they? They did not give a fuck. And that's what made it so fun to watch, because it's like, now I need to actually like go watch the whole thing, because I feel like I'm missing out on something now. But
you need to take a day, yeah.
A day, yeah, because I'll probably have to pause frequently in between while I'm cringing so hard I can't take it.
That's bad.
Right. But you mentioned The Room, which, are we talking about Tommy Wiseau Room, or is there a horror room called The Room that I'm not aware of?
No, I was thinking of the Tommy Wiseau one, because there's plenty of movies out there that you don't have to be a horror movie to be bad. Don't worry about it. You can make anything bad.
It's the Citizen Kane of bad movies, from what I remember they were saying.
Truly is. And at least he, you know, he was trying. He was, you know, that's the whole thing. He swung for the fences, and he got a result. He didn't lean into like, until the second movie.
Well, no, I mean, he was going for like an actual drama, and then when it premieres, everybody was laughing so terrible, he had to kind of lean into it being a dark comedy, you know, kind of like what it was portrayed in the Disaster Artist, which is like, thank you for enjoying my comedy, which I fully intended, you know. It was it was a crack up. That guy is so weird. He is one of the weirdest, most eccentric people that I've ever seen in my entire life.
But you know what? He went for it, though. I appreciate that. You know, if you got a goal and, you know, you want to make it happen, he made it happen.
And you know what the funny thing is that for the longest time in LA, there was a billboard for the movie that I think was actually up for upwards of about 7 years. Like, it stayed up from like early 2000 to like 2010. Or something like that. I'll have to like do some fact checking, but if I remember correctly, like, he took out a bunch of money. Just like, he spent $6 million on this movie, which was just an absolute train wreck. And he leased this billboard just to always have that weird ass picture of him with the lazy eye and shit, just like, and then The Room. and a phone number you could call, I guess. And there's just like there, from what I hear, and my brother and I were supposed to go to one of these, but he got sick and we weren't able to do it. But they have screenings of this movie all the time, all over LA and different parts of, everywhere really, but like in LA especially. But yeah, like people, I guess people when they're there, they like bring footballs and throw them around and shit. And cause that's like all they're doing that throughout the entire movie.
Yeah.
I don't know if you're familiar with like Cinema Sins, right? The YouTube channel.
Love it. Yep.
They did their their video on The Room was the funniest damn thing I have seen, just because like the guy is going on and at random intervals, especially because how Tommy Wiseau wrote the script, he did not focus really that much on character development at all. And like there would be random people showing up then, and the guy who was narrating the Cinema Sins, he's like, who the fuck is this guy? Because you have no idea where he came from. And he just all of a sudden, like he's part of the narrative.
It's so true though. It really is just out of left field. But in Wiseau's defense, you don't need to explain everybody who comes on screen. Just let them walk on, Just they got a couple of lines and then they're out of there, hopefully.
It's confusing as fuck though. It's confusing just because like, from a random drug dealer guy to a guy at a party who's like interjecting his take on what's going on between Johnny and Mark, oh hi Mark. Oh man. I mean that's it doesn't get better than that. It really doesn't.
No, the good part is though that you can compare that movie and it actually makes Steven Seagal's movies look pretty good, which is good for Steven Seagal.
Dude,
those are
I could not that I would do this, but I could make a video of me taking a crap and that would still be better than Steven Seagal.
You would, yeah. I'd absolutely pay to watch that before I'd pay to watch a Steven Seagal movie. You just got to put some dramatic music to it, and that's it. And you're good to go.
Dramatic music, and just some of the worst acting I could do, which is still better. It's just like he is a nut bar, that man.
Oh yeah.
I was watching, like there was a period of time, not a very long period of time, thankfully, where I had like just a morbid fascination with the life of Steven Seagal, because every single story I heard about him got worse and worse and worse, and then it got even worse somehow. And the man is just out of his mind, like just delusional out of his mind. And they say he's an Aikido master, but honestly, every video I've ever watched of him demonstrating his abilities looks like the guys running at him are just like, okay, let's take it easy on him. He doesn't know what the fuck he's doing. Let's make it look like he can throw us across the room. That's what it looks like to me. Now, I don't know shit. I'm not a master of a martial art. I haven't taken a martial art since I was 12 years old. But like watching him, he'll just like shift periodically and then grab a guy and throw him. Like the guy's running full speed towards him and he makes it look like it's effortless. But at the same time, I'm like, that's just stunt coordination.
It's effortless because he's doing it for you. Yeah.
But then again, I mean, I don't know that, because apparently that's like the one verifiable thing about him is that he actually is an Aikido master. Fine. Okay. But I mean, he hasn't really done much to sell it, considering that the last, I would say 20 years, he's let himself go horribly. And I'm not shaming anybody who, it's hard to stay in shape. It's hard to lose weight. It can be very difficult when life is going on. I mean, I would love to lose about 30 pounds.
No, you can absolutely shame Steven Seagal for that. That's okay. Because if you're gonna be demonstrating like martial arts expertise and at the highest level, I think you need to be in shape. I think it's part of the job. If you're gonna be a personal trainer and you look like me, I'm not gonna give you money. Like, no, this is not happening.
Well, you know who Tom Segura is. I'm sure you know who Tom Segura is.
Of course.
Okay. One of his specials, he's talking about how like he was like I think the bit was basically like Steven Seagal's out of his fucking mind. Yeah. And he apparently is brought in to train law enforcement in hand-to-hand combat. And now I will say in his heyday, like, because one of the movies that I would watch over and over as a kid is Under Siege 2, Dark Territory. I still love that movie. I like it a lot.
That's a good one.
It's a good movie. I think everybody else does a good job of acting around Steven Seagal, so it makes him look a little bit better. I mean, and that was like, I think that was Katherine Heigl's first feature film. She was like, I think she was like 17 or 18 when that movie came out. And then you got like Kurtwood Smith. He plays like an admiral. I love Kurtwood Smith. He's one of my favorite actors. First thing I ever saw him in was RoboCop, and then he, you know, all the way up to That 70s Show. But you know, they have all these great actors. Nick Mancuso's in it. All these really great actors that are in it, and it's a good story. That's the other thing. It's a good story. But Steven Seagal really does sell the action. I think that was when he was kind of coming towards the end of his glory days, because he still was really good and really fast in his movements, and he could really sell the action. And I think that was one of the things that I appreciate. And he actually had some decent one-liners in that movie, like when he creates the bomb out of like a martini shaker and a beeper and a few other things, and you know, he's like, I gotta go beep somebody. It's like that's a corny action movie line 101. And so I enjoy that movie. And back in the time, you know, he was really fast. You know, he really was good with hand-to-hand combat. I think if he was instructing cops back in that day, it would be a little more credible. But now, like, the man has to like be sitting first before he does anything. Like, even in some of the more recent movies he's made, I've noticed like he's in between action sequences, he's either leaning up against a wall or sitting on a chair, and the guy looks like he's about to pass out.
He's done fight scenes while sitting down, I think, for that reason. Like, you can see them in the movies. There's a few of them where they fight him and he doesn't get out of his chair, and somehow they cannot defeat the sitting man. It blows my mind.
But it does, just because I even like Jean-Claude Van Damme, after battling a coke habit and being diagnosed with a mental illness and all of that, the man still is in amazing physical shape, is still incredibly good at what he does in terms of, you know, martial arts technique and how he's able to fight. I mean, the man was an actual fighter at one point.
Right? Yeah.
You know, he would fight in competitions and things like that, and he got accolades and different recognitions for his, you know, ability to fight. But yeah, I mean, time has been a little hard on him, but he's still pretty much the same badass that I loved watching when I was a kid. And
yeah, I remember,
you know,
wasn't he in one of the Expendables as the main bad guy, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you got to hand it to Sylvester Stallone, because I mean, first of all, he revived a lot of careers with that franchise. And that is something to behold, really, truly, including his own, because, you know, there's a period of time he wasn't like as big of a name as he once was. And now he's back on top. And I think that was the reason. Expendables is largely to do with that. But I love how in Expendables 2, the name of Van Damme's character is Villain, which is just a play off of the word villain. His name is fucking Villain. I'm like, okay, I can roll with that. It's pretty hokey and corny. But then again, that entire franchise it's so damn cheesy. But I love it because it's done well. The action sequences, the cinematography, even the acting and the story is still very good. I mean, as far as action movies go, but yeah, it's a crack up.
Now, which one's worse, the Villain being his name, or oh gosh, what was it? The Avatar movies. I think the first one, at least, where they were looking for the mineral unobtainium, which they could have just called it really hard to findium. What do you call it? I hated that name. So the MacGuffinum, whatever you want to call it, but that, like, unobtainium.
Like when I first heard that, and like I have to imagine that the reason why it was called that is because they couldn't think of a better name, and it can't be found anywhere else. Like, that is the best explanation that I can come up with. But at the same time, every time I hear that, I hear my, like, either under my breath or in my head, I'm like, God damn it, Jim Cameron, you could not think of anything. You're James Cameron, for fuck's sake. You couldn't think of anything better. But again, he's James Cameron, so I mean, who am I to argue? The results speak for themselves, and it's one of the biggest movie franchises in history. And it's
Aggravatingly
just,
so.
I mean, you really got to hand it to him. He manages to pull it off in ways that I still sometimes am mystified by. Like, you know, like Terminator, Titanic, and okay, perfectly, totally get it.
Yeah.
Those movies they stand out in ways, and they have fantastic actors, fantastic stories. You can't argue with that. But like the Avatar, just the subject matter, I'm just like, what was he on? Or how late at night was he up, like trying to think of a story? And that's what he came up with. I can't get mad at it because I'm like, that's some out there shit. That's seriously creative. But at the same time, it's just like, I feel like part of it's like The Matrix. The other part of it's like some kind of weird like jungle movie or something, Last of the Mohican shit. And he just like mashed it all together, and then he threw in Sigourney Weaver, and then there it is. It's just like, okay, man, cool. I can't,
Yeah.
but again, you can't argue with the results.
No, you cannot. Absolutely true. But that's it just goes to show new technology does help out. And I gotta say, I was on a date when I first saw that movie, and the first line when it opens up, the guy talking about his brother, someone killed my brother for the change in his pocket. I'm like, oh, I'm not gonna like this movie at all. This is gonna be bad. It was just so bad. We left like halfway through, if I remember correctly.
Really?
And
Really?
we went to go do something else. I forgot what it was. Maddie, if you ever see this, I'm sorry I made you watch that. She's a great person. She did not deserve that. But oh my gosh, yeah, it was a rough one for me. And I understand when people like movies that I don't like because it's personal preference thing. Because it's not like they did a bad job on anything as far as, you know, actual filmmaking goes. The acting was still pretty good, especially with not being, you know, live action technically, but it was all completely live action, you know, to a certain extent.
Well, it was like, I watched the behind the scenes videos of the mocap suits, and like
Impressed?
from what I read, like they said they had a blast filming, even though they had to really use their imagination. You know, because they weren't going to see what it looked like until, you know, except in post. And yeah, it's just crazy. But yeah, no, kind of going back to what you were saying, I find it amazing like how some people will get pissed off if you don't like a certain movie. That makes zero sense to me, because, you know, it's kind of like with cigars. I hit my microphone. With cigars, you like what you like, and that's it. Because there are cigars I've tried that I'll never smoke again.
Yeah.
Because I wasn't feeling it. It didn't have the right flavor. It didn't, you know, it could be the draw, it could be the construction, it could be a number of things. Like, I have a very complicated relationship with Monte Cristo, because there was a period of time for about a year where I had nothing but rough experiences smoking Monte Cristos. But I've smoked some good Monte Cristos. Like, the White Series is one of my favorites from them. But the number twos, I don't know why, but I just like, I have a rough time with those. My dad bought me a box of petite Coronas. And the first one was fantastic, and the rest very, very iffy at best. It was just bad. But, you know, there's some people who get pissed if you don't like, or they get annoyed if you don't like it. I won't say pissed, because that's exaggerating a little bit, stretching it. But like, I've had people who like, how could you not like it? I'm like, because I don't fucking like it. I just don't.
It's pretty simple, yeah.
Well, yeah, it's about that. But same thing with like certain movies. Like, there's movies like, I don't know about you, but I've watched most of it, not the entire thing. I'm not this crazy big fan of Scarface.
Really? Okay. I can see
I'm not a
not
huge
liking
fan
it.
of it.
Oh,
It's one I need to like sit down and watch it from beginning to end again, because like I watched it kind of chopped up. But again, if you've seen like a handful of scenes, you've practically seen the whole movie. It's one of those. But like I love Al Pacino. Al Pacino's fantastic, but I'd rather watch The Godfather. I'd rather sit through an almost 3-hour movie, because even during the parts that drag, I love The Godfather. It's one of my favorite movies in the world. But yeah, Scarface. Again, I'm gonna have to sit down and watch it all the way through, because I love gangster movies. I love mobster movies. Goodfellas is another favorite of mine.
oh yeah.
And I actually met one of the mobsters mentioned in that movie. He's no longer a mobster, of course. A man by the name of Michael Franzese. He was mentioned in that bar scene where he's talking about all the different guys, but he pronounced it Michael Francese. But yeah, no, he's a former mobster. Was a captain. Was a captain in the Colombo crime family. His dad was the underboss, and he got involved in that life. Went to prison for 8 years. Became like a Christian and motivational speaker, and so yeah, guy's doing pretty well for himself. He still does a lot of the documentaries and stuff, talking about being in the mob and all that kind of stuff. And yeah, it's a crazy story, but yeah, it's funny because I met a guy who was once upon a time an actual mobster in one of the 5 families.
That's insane.
Mm-hmm.
Now, so if you're going for gangster movies, okay, this one might fall under more of the Scarface territory than Godfather, because Godfather's, a step above, obviously.
Godfather is the standard, really.
Truly. But if you haven't seen it, and it's more of a cartel movie, but The Tax Collector, I absolutely loved that one. And I know it's not the best movie out there, but it's just one that I really liked.
I haven't seen that. I've seen one of the Sicario movies with Benicio del Toro. Yeah, I didn't see the first one, but I saw the second one. My dad just played it for me when I was at his house. I didn't get a chance to watch the first one, but it was good. It was really good. But yeah, those movies I like. It's a different kind of gangster movie, just because it's a whole different world, whole different atmosphere. The violence is still very present, but it's brutal. And anything about cartels is just brutal. I have to be careful what I say.
Now, they know they're brutal. I mean, we can say that much. Upstanding gentlemen just providing a service and being brutal at the same time. But if obviously, I think that's one that I will judge people. If they don't like The Godfather, I'm like, do you like movies then, really? But okay, it's fine. It's okay.
It makes me think of that bit from Family Guy when they're in their house and their house is flooding.
Dying. Yeah.
He's like, I just want to say, I did not care for The Godfather. It's like, what? It's a great movie. It's like, it insists upon itself.
It's insistent. It's got a good point. God. But damn it, the Paramount series about the making of The Godfather, if you haven't seen that, like, go watch it today. It is so good. The behind the scenes of The Godfather and how it was made, it elevates something that's already amazing to something even better somehow. And it made me rewatch The Godfather like right after I binge watched a 12 episode, like hour long each series. So it's like 15 hours of content. It's so worth it.
I'll do. There's so many things I'm watching right now. I actually started watching like the Castlevania animated series on Netflix, because it's got
really good.
It's got a stellar cast too. It's got Richard Armitage. It's got gosh, I can't believe I'm blanking on his name. He's a Scottish actor. He was in The Witcher. Bald guy. And I was just thinking about him earlier today. Now I gotta look his ass up, because otherwise I'm gonna lose my mind.
Fair enough.
This guy actually, once I finally remember his name, he actually has his own Scotch whiskey.
Nice.
And just need to remember what it is. But it is, wait for it. Graham McTavish.
Graham McTavish. That sounds familiar. Yeah.
Yeah, kind of a big, imposing Scottish guy, bald, big beard, fantastic actor. He voices Dracula in that series, which it suits him. But no, but yeah, watch. There's so many things I have on my list to watch, and now there's that, and then there's like a couple other things that I've been meaning to watch. Did you see Nosferatu?
I did. I enjoyed it. I had fun with
Oh
that movie.
man, that was something else. Like I feel like that was more Dracula than Dracula in a funny way, just because of how they did it.
Yes, yes, very much so. And the acting and the time period pieces are so difficult because you have to create a world, and they did such a good job. I think I enjoyed it very much so.
I'm still tripping out about uh, Bill Skarsgård and what he did to prepare for that. Like, if no one told me that was him, I wouldn't have known it was him, because his voice is dropped like 1 or 2 octaves so deep that like when I try to imitate the voice, like it's hard. It's really hard to do. And combined with the makeup and everything, like again, if nobody told me that was Bill Skarsgård, I'd be like, who is this guy? It completely went over my head. And I'm wondering how the hell he did not get nominated for an Academy Award. That's what I'm wondering. Because
it's no, it's because it's horror. You know, it's supposed to be a scary movie, and they don't like that.
yeah,
They just don't care for it.
I mean, Heath Ledger, God rest him, even if he had not left us as early as he did, I still think he would have gotten nominated and probably won the Academy Award for The Dark Knight. And that was a superhero movie.
Oh yeah.
So it's funny to me that like acting that good doesn't get, but I heard something like, because it got nominated for a number of Academy Awards, but I heard like, I guess that they submitted a little too late for certain nominations or something. I don't know. Maybe the votes weren't, but I feel like you said, there is a bias when it comes to horror. But this wasn't like your typical horror movie. This wasn't anything like the average horror movie that you see coming out in theaters or that you see, on streaming. This was really, really good in all facets, the acting, the story, the cinematography, set design, music, everything. I mean, it was as close to a perfect movie as you could get in terms of execution. And in my opinion, I mean, and I know not everybody will agree with me, which is, it's fine, but it was one of those things where watching it, I just like I was fixated, like honestly was fixated just because of how dark and brutal it got. It was hard to watch in certain parts, but it was just so good. It was so good. It was one of those horror movies where you can't look away for good reasons, unlike some of the bad ones where it's just like it's a train wreck and you can't look away from it. So, and like honestly, I have kind of going back to Tubi, because Tubi is like this big old hodgepodge of movies from mainstream to really, really bad low budget movies.
Oh,
like I've watched some horror movies on there that I still don't know what happened because of how badly written and how poorly executed it was. Like, because my favorite type of horror movies are anthology movies.
Oh, love them.
Because you're squeezing multiple stories into one film. Probably my 2 favorite anthology horror films are Creepshow and Tales from the Hood.
Yeah.
Tales from the Hood is so good, man. It's so good. And I feel like they did something that no one else has done. Rusty Cundiff is brilliant. I love what he does. There's another one that's kind of akin to that like it's on Tubi. I think it's still on Tubi. It's called American Nightmares. Have you heard of it?
No. I'm gonna watch that then.
It has like a pretty Rusty Cundiff is involved in it. I don't know if he's like the main director or if he just directs a couple of it, but it kind of tackles a lot of the same types of things that Tales from the Hood did, kind of in a way of like, social justice, racism, all this different kind of stuff. But it does it very well. And Danny Trejo's in it. Nichelle Nichols of Star Trek, she was in it. She had kind of a small part, but it was like kind of central to the entire narration. Who else is in it? Clarence Williams III. I think that was one of his last roles because he was in Tales from the Hood. He played the Mr. Sims, the mortician, the Undertaker guy, who ended up being the devil at the end. He's in it, and a few other people. That it was just like a really, really well done anthology horror movie. And yeah, if you haven't watched it, please do. It's actually really good. I've watched it a couple times, and I've enjoyed it each time.
So if you like anthologies too, and you gotta kind of, it's a Christmas horror anthology, and I cannot remember the name, but if I think it's gonna pop up as long as you type in Christmas horror anthology. But there's one that's just so well done, and they all connect. Oh, I wish I could remember the name right now.
I might know what you're talking about. There's two different holiday themed anthology horror movies that I love. One is Tales of Halloween, which is really good. A lot of really good actors and good stories in that one. And the other one is Holidays. Have you seen that one?
No, I don't think I've seen Holidays.
It covers like a handful of holidays from like Mother's Day, Father's Day, Christmas, Halloween, all that. I think they touch on 4th of July, but no, like Seth Green's in it, his wife as well. They play, a married couple in one of the segments, and it's actually for Christmas. But yeah, the stories are actually really well done. And if last I checked, it's still on Netflix, but no, it's really good. But what was the one you mentioned again? It was a Christmas one, but you couldn't remember the name.
The name escapes me. But I watch it every year because it pops up. I want to just say it's called Christmas Horror Stories or something. And the way that they all actually fit together. Oh, love it.
The last anthology horror movie I watched was actually a difficult watch. Well, the first one was a hard watch. The first segment was really hard for me to watch because I will say this as a dad, anything that involves kids, especially kids getting hurt or worse, is really, really difficult for me to watch. So other than that, it was pretty decent. The first one was rough for me to watch. It's called XX. Came out in 2017. I would give it a watch if you get a chance. But honestly, some of the best ones that I've watched are the VHS series. Have you seen those?
Ooh, I love the VHS. I've the only one I think that I was like kind of miffed about was VHS Viral, but even that I still enjoyed very much. Like I still liked it. It just wasn't as good as the rest.
No, it wasn't as good as the first two, and because I don't have Shudder, I haven't watched the more recent ones like 94 and all that, and 99 and all that kind of stuff. I really need to. But no, the VHS movies are really, really good. Even Viral was good. Like the first story about that magician in that stupid cape, I didn't like that one. But the rest of them were actually pretty decent. I enjoyed those pretty well, and it had a good kind of enough of a found footage feel and amateur feel to make it be good, even if the effects were a little bit shoddy. But at the same time, it's just like they're making a movie that's a composite of all these different found footage, bits and stuff like that. So it was pretty well done, and I want to watch the other ones. But no, the first two were just something else. They set the bar pretty damn high in terms of found footage and anthology, like, because they did both. They did found footage and anthology in really, pretty much seamless fashion, in my opinion. It's not easy to do.
Back to the Colts too for a second, because we touched on that in the beginning. The Colt short that they put into, I think the second one.
The one about I remember what you're talking about. The pregnant girl.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, that one still freaks me out. I love watching. I could watch that one by itself and just.
Oh yeah, like and the end is like just such a trip, because like it kind of still gives me a little bit of the shivers, where like the guy's car rolls over and over and he's trying to get out, and the monster shows up and calls him daddy, and he just starts laughing out of hysteria. And I was just like, Jesus Christ.
Good.
It was good though. It was really good. No, it was really good. But yeah, no, those are my favorite kind, just because again, you squeeze several stories into one, with like one central plot kind of all going along with it, you know. I will say, and this isn't an anthology one, this is a found footage one, but Hell House LLC. Have you seen that?
Yeah,
The
that's
first
solid.
one, the first one is great. The second one, pretty good. Third one, Third one is kind of they tried to close it out in it's funny, they tried to make it almost like a happy ending sort of thing.
I haven't seen that. Oh.
It's not bad, but it's kind of like it serves as a prequel and a sequel in a weird way,
Huh.
because it kind of ties up, it tries to tie up everything nice and neat, going all the way back to the beginning where of the first one. But honestly, dude, when I watched the first Hell House, it freaked me out. It was one of the first legit scary movies that I watched in a long time that actually scared me. Like, because just there were certain elements that were freaky as hell that, you know, you don't see it coming because you don't know what to expect. And so, yeah, it was it was rough, man, but it was good. I really liked it.
Cool. I'll throw one more in there then too, going found footage. The Grave Encounters, I think there's 2 of them. And the second one wasn't as good, but the first one was just big thumbs up. Like I wasn't expecting much.
I think I started the first one, and then for whatever reason, it kind of got put on the shelf because of, you know, probably I was in the middle of watching a bunch of different shows and movies, and it kind of got pushed to the side. But yeah, no, I think that's also on Tubi. There's a lot of really good hidden gems on Tubi. If you want to find bad horror and some surprisingly good horror, that is the place to go. And but again, you're gonna have to wade through some shit before you find the good stuff. Because like I said, there's movies I've watched that I still don't know what was going on, because it was just so badly done and so poorly written. And I'm like, okay, that was horribly unsatisfying, but okay. So some people just, I mean, it was an excuse to make a movie, I think, and good for them, but try to make it a good movie. And if you're going to make a bad movie, make it, again, so bad that it's entertaining. Not so bad that I'm left confused afterwards.
You got to just shoot for the fences, and then it will be so bad that it's good. You can't aim for going bad, because then you're going to just be cheesy bad. When I want it to be so uncomfortably cringy bad that I can't stop watching. Like I need to make it to the end to feel like I accomplished something.
Right.
Demon Fighter is on Tubi, and is about a underground fighting priest that punches demons out of people. Something like that. But it's not like Velocipaster kind of leans into being cheesy. This one does not. It takes itself very seriously. And a buddy of mine's in it. She's got a small role, but it's still very nice to see that she is. If they do a sequel, she will be the star of the sequel. So good for her.
Nice.
Oh, it is. It's a fun, hard to watch.
All right. Well, I will have to look that up now. Now you piqued my interest, but that makes me think of a joke that I heard a long time ago, where there's a priest and a rabbi at a boxing match. And one of the boxers, before the fight starts, he kneels down in the corner and crosses himself. And the rabbi leans to the priest and he says, "What does this mean?" And the priest says, "Not a damn thing if the man can't fight."
It's a good point. I'll give him that. I'm going to give it to him.
But no, you can see where it made me think of that, because you're talking about a priest in an underground fighting ring who punches demons out of people. That's about as niche as you can get in terms of like being a professional fighter. It's just like, how do you know who's possessed and who's not?
You got to punch him enough. If you don't punch him enough, you're never going to find out.
I guess where his holy water dipped, tape on his hands and shit. So, I mean, that's the only way I figured that works. But no, that sounds fun. I think I would have a good time watching that, because yeah, like you said, that's one of those storylines where you read it and you hear about it and you're like, okay, I got to see this, just because it's so far out there. But there was just one more thing. I think I'm going to cover just one last thing before we wrap it up. What is your take on all of these horror movies coming out that are childhood cartoon or movie themed? Like Winnie the
talking about
Pooh,
Blood and Honey.
Grinch, Blood and Honey. Now there's one coming out that's like supposed to be like Steamboat Willie or something. Like it's a killer mouse boat captain. And I'm like, what the fuck? Do it.
Make more, okay? Because I don't want. There's a video I watched on creativity, and it's like, okay,
right.
If you're not, you still can be. Just consume media, enjoy it, think on it, and then stack ideas until you find something that's uniquely you. And these guys are stacking their childhood along with whatever horrible, slasher movies they watched as kids. Let it just bleed together and come up with something new. And you know what? It might not work, but then someone else might be able to do something with that because you inspired them to do something else and something else. You don't get the MCU, any of the Marvel movies that we have now, without the Blade movies, because
no, absolutely.
You don't get movies like Drive or what is it, Baby Driver and all those without the Fast and Furious movies. Even though I don't care for Fast and Furious movies, you have to have those to make other movies kind of stand out. You don't get to have The Walking Dead without Dawn of the Dead, without all the Romero stuff. And I love Romero. That was one of my inspirations.
Absolutely.
My favorite memory for writing a script was handing him my script, the very first one I ever wrote. And he took it. He's like, I'm gonna read this later, and then I just for whatever reason can't get a hold of the guy, and then I saw him years later.
We're talking about the actual George Romero.
Yes.
You actually? Oh wow, you got to meet him. That's awesome.
I met him twice. I met him once in New Jersey when I was 17. I handed him my first script I ever wrote, and him and his assistant were very nice about it. Just trying to be nice to a kid who wrote probably a horrible script. I don't even remember the whole thing.
Right.
And then I saw him again on my birthday in Texas, and this was like months before he passed away, and he was looking so frail and so weak, and it breaks your heart, but it was so nice to see him before that.
Yeah.
And man, I cried the day he passed away. I remember being in a restaurant and leaving the table like I need a second because this is my hero for filmmaking. Like this is the guy. And yeah. So you don't you need Blood and Honey, and you need Steamboat Willie to go murder some people to make whatever comes next. And I cannot wait to see what comes next.
No, seriously, I need to carve out some time to watch some of these movies just because honestly, admittedly, I've lost a little bit of my edge when it comes to being able to sit down and watch certain horror movies. Cause I'm not sure I can sit through the Terrifier movies, if I'm being honest, even though they're like a phenomenon. I probably will one day. I've seen pretty much all of the kill scenes from every single one. So I don't know why I wouldn't be able to sit through it. But it's just like they up the ante with each one. And it is just insane.
The scary part for me though, for those is it is very gory. And I understand okay, we're finally getting these gory movies back in theaters, which is great. And people are like, oh no, this is too much. This is over and above beyond whatever would happen. And if you are a true crime fan out there and you listen to some of these stories of like David Alcala or even the really popular ones like Ramirez and stuff, real life is scarier than these movies still. It is terrifying. So whenever I see them, I'm like, sure, it's gory, but it's still not comparison to what actually happens, which is the scariest part to me. That's what gets me.
People are the scariest monsters. Human beings are the scariest monsters. They are capable of the most horrible things. So yeah, no, and being a fan of true crime, listening, watching documentaries and listening to podcasts and stuff like that. So yeah, no, it's absolutely true. But it is it's mind blowing the amount of realistic effects that they can apply to these guys. I think that's what makes it hard to watch, is that the effects are top notch, like really good effects, not overly hokey, not overly, cheesy or anything like that. They go for the jugular. I mean, in some cases in the film, literally. But yeah, it's nuts. But no, like I've been an avid consumer of horror since I was a kid. You know, even if it gave me nightmares, I still liked watching scary stuff. And I had a lot of nightmares as a kid. And I think at one point I just became immune to it. It was just like, this is part of my DNA now. But yeah, no, it is pretty incredible what people will take and turn into a horror movie. And for all my criticisms, there's still like plenty of curiosity left for me to be like, you know what? It's probably worth a watch. I might as well just sit down and, because I have this space here. I got a TV to my left. And it's just like, just sitting here, light up a cigar and watch something stupid. Watch something absolutely horribly stupid. And I think that's part of the fun of watching movies in general, is just like you may not get the greatest cinematic, creation, but you're going to have a good time. And that's the point, I think. So
hell yeah. I hope we do this again in about 15 months, and we will be talking about Living Death. I hope that we can watch it terribly together and like, oh god, that was bad, or like, oh, this is pretty good. This is pretty good.
Well, and also stay tuned for the movie trailer, because it's quite possible your boy here is going to be the voice of the movie trailer. At least I hope. Yep. Okay, I'll take that as confirmation. But Miguel, thanks so much for being on the podcast. I had a great time talking with you. It's a pleasure as always. I really appreciate you jumping on here. And Frankie, sorry you couldn't be here, brother. Yeah, having to do the adult shit and go into work. I miss you. Miguel might not, but I miss you, bro. So we'll have to do this again another time, and then you'll have to actually be present. So, but yeah, man, this is a good time. Thank you so much.
I'm glad to be on. Whenever you need me, I got to get you back on with us too. I got some projects I want to throw your way. Finally getting some stuff rolling, so we'll make it happen. All right.
I'm down, dude. You know I am. So we hope you guys enjoyed the podcast, and hopefully you enjoyed the conversation and stuck around until the very end. Okay, I got a question for Miguel. Who rules?
Revelers rule.
Absolutely. And if you're watching or listening, that also means you. So hope you guys are doing fantastic. Thanks for tuning in, and we will see you next time.
Are we just ignoring the fact that we're wearing the same damn shirt right now, I think?
I was going to address it, but then I decided not to.
I also was going to bring it up like, holy shit, we did not coordinate this, I promise.